Yes, yeah, so my name is Floyd Mueller, Exertion Games Lab, and me and my very social co-authors presenting a second-person social perspective on bodily play. And in the Exertion Games Lab, we work with the realization that we used to play with digital content. And it was quite clear what the user or player was and which one was the digital content, and then you had the interface in the middle of there. Mouse and keyboard and later joystick. But what more recently, since the Connect and the Wii, we are playing with the digital content using our bodies. So you still know what the digital, there's no more interface in the middle, classical interface, but you still know which one is the digital content, and you still know what the human player's body is. And what we really want is a vision to experiencing our bodies as playing, meaning that the digital content and the human body meaningfully integrate with one another. And in order to make this vision of experiencing the body as digital play a reality, last year at CHI we proposed it's useful to look at the human body from two perspectives. So the first perspective is the realization that we have a body. This is like that physical material body. But we also are a body. We feel a certain way about our body. Right? So this table here has a body, but is not a body. Only humans and animals have and are a body. Robots are not a body. And you all know this. And from your own personal experiences, if you do any sports, right? So yesterday you saw a keynote speaker talking about beach volleyball. I thought I'd talk about surfing, because surfing is a great example of like having your body and feeling about your body, right? So I'm not any good with surfing, but I'm trying, right? And if you have ever tried a sport, you know that sometimes you just don't feel it, right? You don't feel good about yourself, you are stressed or something else, and then you don't get into the flow, you don't enjoy surfing, and then it's just not going right. Your body is just not doing what you want it to do. So this refers back to this interplay that you have a body and you are a body. You feel a certain way about your body, and that affects your body and vice versa. So this is the difference between having a body and are or being a body. And that is important because phenomenology tells us that we can use two terms with that. One is the first person perspective on the body, and that's important because it allows us to look inside our body, how we feel about it. The other terminology we use from phenomenology is the third person perspective on the body. So that's kind of like the outside perspective on the body. Like when you look in the mirror, you look at the material body. And we now argue that, yes, it's useful to look at the first and third person perspective when you're designing games for the body, but you should also look at the first and third person perspective of another player, other people involved in the bodily play experience. And thanks to advancing technology, we can now interconnect them, not just in parallel, but across. And we argue that's very interesting, and we call that the second person perspective. So what I'm going to show you now is 4 example systems that we developed over the years before this project, but then in reflecting on them, we realized that they all engage with that second person perspective in various, and we hope, interesting ways. And we use them to then derive a set of 4 design strategies you have to do when you go back to your respective labs to engage with that second person perspective. So I should say that all of these examples, the strategies apply to all of these examples, but just in the interest of time, I'm just going to show you one strategy per one example for today. So the first game is Balance Ninja. And with Balance Ninja, we investigate what you saw in the talk earlier about this vertical play. You can apply a small current behind your ears in order to affect your sense of balance. And the interesting thing here is we can now have another person control your sense of balance. So I'm going to show you a video, the original video that we did about that game, and then I will explain you how it refers to the second person perspective.
Vertigo has been described in game design as games that attempt to momentarily destroy the stability of perception and inflict a kind of voluptuous panic, or pleasurable panic, upon an otherwise lucid mind. So, for example, Vertigo games could include simply spinning in circles, skiing, racing fast cars, and even rock climbing. With our work, we investigate how we can design digital Vertigo games by taking advantage of the digital technology now available to us. To investigate this, we built Balance Ninja. Balance Ninja is a two-player balance game where players directly affect the balance of their opposing player. Firstly, players stand on a balance board and move their upper body to the left and to the right, and we measure this lean with a mobile device. Secondly, through using a technology called galvanic vestibular stimulation, or GVS for short, the game directly affects a player's sense of balance. With GVS, a small current of around 1.5 milliamps is applied to electrodes attached behind players' ears. The resultant effect is that the player's sense of balance is affected in the direction of the positive electrode, causing them to lean in that direction. So basically, when one person leans to the right, the GVS of the opposing player triggers in that same direction, which makes the other player lean and attempt to compensate. The object and challenge of Balance Ninja is to cause the opposing player to touch their board to the floor, whilst trying to remain balanced themselves.
So here with Balance Ninja, let me talk about the design strategy that derived from Balance Ninja. So here we have two people and we look at the two perspectives on their body. We can see that if we can now sense the swaying of one person, right, so it's through the sensors in the phone attached to the person's chest, we can now affect the sensation of losing one's balance of another person wirelessly. So here we highlight the opportunity for you as designer to connect one player's movement with another player's sensation. The next game is a VR game around food, where we explored connecting two players' bodies in order to allow a non-VR player to play with a VR player together in one combined experience. So again, let me show you the original video developed, and then I'm going to talk to you about the same game experience from the second person perspective.
With VR games getting more and more popular in recent years, ways to control those games are also changing. Earlier studies proved that bodily actions, such as hand gestures, are rated best. So we thought, why don't we use eating as a control mechanism for VR games? Eating as an interaction for VR games is very new, and the big question is, how to design games with edible interactions. After testing our game over and over and conducting a user study, we developed strategies for designers to answer that question.
You're in this sort of island, and it's all about exploring the island and staying alive while finding relevant things to help me get off the island.
Your partner's kind of your eyes to the outside world, so he's trying to help you survive in the virtual world.
It's a big trust exercise basically, and then you're having to really openly communicate with somebody else as well.
I felt like it was a group experience, and I wasn't sort of sealed away in like an avatar world. I was in the now, but still in this world, you know?
It sometimes felt frustrating to work with a partner who didn't have the same audiovisual cues that I did. But when we finally worked it out, it felt really good because it meant that I was successful in communicating what I wanted and I needed to do in the game.
Any situation, whether it's it's virtual or if it's real, it's still scary. So having someone there, it calms you down immediately.
Whenever you start to black out, somebody needs to feed you, revive you.
You feel like you're bonding because like you're helping each other in this situation. I need to feed this person.
I guess it was satisfying hearing the crunch sound in your own mouth and then your vision repairing. Snaps you back into the thought of the real world.
The real world aspects of it were really good and really elevated it, but just another game where you're isolated in the world.
It's unique, it's different, there's a interaction between the real world and the virtual, and it's really enjoyable.
So here, in this game, the second person perspective relates to the fact that you can connect two bodies together. And you can do that because our body boundaries are not fixed but malleable, right? That's what you had when the other person was kind of embracing the VR player. And you all know this, like, if you ever played like a three-legged race, right? So where you connect your leg, you use a piece of rope and tie it up with another person's leg. Then you have to have a race, right? In the beginning it's very hard, you actually just walk, and after a little while you can walk, and then you can actually run. Right? That's because our body boundaries are not fixed, but rather malleable. as we can see in the previous talks, right? Our body is very good in adapting to these situations. And here we highlight, we can actually use this malleability of the body's boundaries to intertwine bodies in novel and interesting ways. Next game is the guts game, where we explore the fact that technology can now be so small that you can put that inside a pill and then swallow that pill, and then you can play games without other people seeing that you're actually having a sensor inside you. And let me show you the original video again, and then I'll explain you the game from a second-person perspective.
This is the guts game, a game that uses ingestible sensors. After swallowing, the sensor travels through the gut and measures the player's temperature, transmitting it wirelessly to the mobile phone. The goal for two players is to manipulate their gut temperature so they can achieve certain game tasks in order to win the game. While the pill is inside the stomach, manipulation of the gut temperature is quite easy through eating a hot food and drinking cold drinks. However, after the pill leaves the stomach, the tasks of manipulating the gut temperature becomes harder, mostly achieved only through physical exercise or by moving between hot and cold places. Players learn about their temperature as well as how to regulate it together through in-game tasks and messaging channel where players are encouraged to take pictures to communicate how they achieve the tasks, all while the pill travels through their body for the next 24 to 36 hours or so. This game allows to ask challenging questions such as, can pill taking be designed so it is fun? How does our relationship with technology change if we can swallow it? What new game experiences can we design where the game's end time depends on the player's bodily function?
I've never tried such a game before. Your body temperature is an input in this game, which is amazing.
It was new to me. It could teach them something about how their body works, because it gave me information that I wouldn't have known.
With the guts game, we demonstrate that experiencing your body as play via an ingestible sensor can be a mesmerizing play experience.
So here, through the guts game, you hopefully could see that obviously it affects what players have to do to increase their body temperature, right? So they often get a game task where they have to increase their body temperature a lot, and the most effective way they quickly found out is doing exercise. And it's fine if you do exercise at home or in the gym, but it's different if you have to do that, if you get the challenge at work or in public transport, right? So if you increase your body temperature from a third-person perspective, or your body temperature increases, you feel a certain way about it. This is of course the same for the other player. So they actually use that because they meant, I know the other person's now on public transport, or he or she has a job interview, let's send him or her the most challenging task, which is, can only be solved by doing exercise. And that of course, affects the other person, how the other person feels about it, and they communicated that through the in-task messaging system. So what we highlight here is that in order to design for these experiences, should design for the first and third person perspective when performing in front of others. We believe this is only going to be increasingly of importance because these sensors can now be inside your body, so other people can't see that you're actually playing the game because they're integrated with your body. Last game I want to show you is RMIT, where we explored the use of on-body robotic extensions as a way to understand and highlight what people eat and how they are eating. Again, let me show you the original video and then we talk about the second-person perspective in that social dining experience.
There is an increasing trend in human-computer interaction that concerns the intersection between technology and food. However, so far, most of it is focused on the preparation or presentation of food, but not so much on the actual eating process. To explore this, we have created RMIT. RMIT is a social augmented eating system consisting of wearable robotic arms behaving as our third arm that is controlled by the affective responses of the eating partner in the following way. If the third arm senses positive facial expressions of the co-diner, it feeds the food to the co-diner. If the third arm senses negative facial expressions of the co-diner, then it feeds the food to the diner. If the third arm does not sense either positive or negative facial expression, then it makes a confusing movement in the air, leaving the diners to guess its movement. It then makes an unpredictable decision, either feeding to the diner or to the co-diner, allowing them to eat in a playful and social manner.
It's a nice change from just sitting down and shoving food in your face. Like normally we just look at our mobile phones and maybe talk a little bit, but this one was kind of full interaction with the person.
I think it's especially suitable for like party games, and I think it will help to make new friends.
We hope that our work inspires new ways of augmenting eating processes, ultimately contributing to our understanding of human-food interaction.
So here, in terms of RMIT, if we look at the first-person perspective of diner A, let's say he or she receives a piece of food that he or she enjoys, right? So we make the assumption then that yes, you're going to smile. And then we can use, face detection and emotion recognition in order then to control the body of the third person through the robotic extension. And then you notice that actually, of course, affects you. There was a lot of laughter. So you feel a certain way about your body, which then is, again, wirelessly controlled, controlling the body of the other person. And that then feeds back to the first person perspective of that play. So there's this nice interloop that intersects between these different perspectives. So here we want to highlight that we can now support bodily mimicry, which we could have done before, but now thanks to advances in face detection and emotion recognition and bodily extensions, we can support bodily mimicry in new and novel ways that we want to highlight here. So to sum up, we've shown you 4 example systems in order to derive 4 strategies for the design of the second person, if you want to engage with the second person social perspective, that you hopefully can take home and then use in your design or teaching practice in order to support more bodily playful experiences. This allows you to experiencing the body as play, and we have argued here now that it's good to look at the first and third person perspective, and in particular the interplay between them. And with that, I conclude my talk on the second person social perspective on bodily play. My name is Floyd Mueller from the Exertion Games Lab. Thank you very much.